So the floor is open, and please stop me from being the leader of the discussion. Please.
Can I
Yes,
start?
yes, go right ahead.
Because I said already that there are a lot of questions.
Yeah.
I mean, not questions, but things to discuss.
Yeah.
And I was just wondering, could you clarify a bit about connection, or if, I don't know if there is any connection between diachronic time and messianic, meaning of messianic. That's one. And I explain why. Because of the third party, so we are like faced not only by this concrete intimate other, but also the third one,
Yes.
who is looking our back. So how about those others who have gone already in the past?
Right.
Could it be possible to bring justice to have a meaning of justice in the future for those who have gone?
Right.
And in that sense, this meaning of messianic, is it helpful
Well,
or not?
good question. As everyone knows, Levinas is not an onto-theologian,
Yeah.
so he has absolutely nothing to say about the continued existence of dead people. So as far as anyone can say, the dead are dead. But the aspirations to justice of all of those in the past who have sacrificed for justice then would be carried on. We're not starting at the beginning in the project of justice. In the project of morality, we are each of us in some sense starting at the beginning, but it's not as if we don't know and have a developed sense of what morality is. But the project of justice, and its messianic, the connection of course is that the messianic is the future in terms of justice. Where I think of it is, and I was thinking about to continue when I ended the discussion of the Talmud, it's not entirely irrelevant, the Talmud, because justice is a long project. It occurs over time, over history. We have the principles of what we're aiming at. We have policies to decide on. But as I say, we were not born yesterday. We as a society were not born yesterday. So a well-developed legal system is usually a great advance on an undeveloped legal system. I was talking to Mao, and in China today there is some problem many people have with the lack of legal justice. In Great Britain, they have a very old system of legal justice. The newer the country, the newer the system, unless you appropriate a prior system. When America became a country, they continued British case law and added a new constitution and a new legislative system of laws. The oldest actual system of law is the Jewish system. So I would think it could provide some guidance in terms of aiming to, because it was self-consciously messianic. That is to say, the Jewish tradition of law was driven by this structure for a long time, probably shortly after the destruction of the Second Temple, when Rabbinic Judaism got into gear. So there's about 2,000 years now of legal discussions on enormous, every topic under the sun. And that would be a resource, just as the British legal system, being also one of the older legal systems, would be a resource. I'm simply unfamiliar with India and what traditions of law have been developed, but these are things we can build on. In that sense, we are keeping alive the inspiration of the past. But at an ontological, or what we might call a superstitious level, Levinas has nothing to say, except that if you adhere to that, you are going to be distracted from the true human project. That is, he calls it a primitive form of religion. It is part of the sed. For Levinas, theology is part of the sed. Okay. Jim.
Well, I just thought it was interesting. I think the question was really interesting because, in Russian tradition, Vladimir Solovyov and Fyodorov, kind of Dostoevsky through this, regarded it as an ethical, and eventually in the Soviet regime, Lunacharsky, regarded as this was the ultimate ethical obligation, was sooner or later to, and not in a kind of religious way for some of them, Fyodorov and Lunacharsky, was the eventual resurrection of the dead. That would be there was an ethical obligation to have a kind of technical solution to the problem.
Well, Levinas...
I know Levinas doesn't
No, I want to say the resurrection of the dead is a basic doctrine of Judaism, always has been. That's where it came from in our civilization, I believe. But as you know, Levinas has a non-ontotheological reading of it, and he finds these superstitious readings of it heading in the wrong direction.
But what I'm just saying is that these aren't necessarily superstitious readings of it. It's the idea that there would be an ethical obligation, as an ideal, if justice was to be, to eventually bring about the resurrection of the dead.
Oh, I'm saying we are carrying on the inspiration of those people, so that Lincoln's Gettysburg Address, which I believe known throughout the world, Lincoln's Gettysburg Address, a very short 2.5-minute talk. Americans used to have to memorize it, they want to do, but the essence of it is that these dead at this battlefield, one of the most bloody slaughters in American history, was the bloodiest slaughter in American history on the home turf, shall not have died in vain. And that would be the sense, that they shall not have died in vain. And what does it mean that they shall not have died in vain? That we go ahead, we go on and create a just society. So if this is the sense that they have of it, then that's consistent with the notion of messianic time. Yeah.
I want to begin. In your talk, I don't know if it's a question to Levinas or to you, or to both. Whatever, I don't.
But distinguishable, I'm wrong.
Yeah. When you spoke about justice, I thought it was very interesting, and you made a distinction in messianic justice and political justice.
I made a distinction in the realm of messianic justice between policy and principle.
Policy and principle. Even that, or maybe that changes a little. Because the way I understand messianic justice, and that's, I agree with it's a very nice wording, ethics without injustice. That's what you said. But and I also agree with what you said, that the messianic justice means that you have no, why messianic? Because you have no program how to get there. You don't know how to get there.
Because it changes on the way.
It changes on the way, that's one. But the secular description of this, of not knowing how to get there, it's a utopia.
That's the language Levinas uses.
Exactly, it's a utopia. And then
you could say utopian justice.
It's a utopian justice, which means that we never, we kind of are resigned that we can never get there. And
is that a resignation, though? Isn't that actually?
I don't know yet.
Yeah.
I don't know yet. I just want, because when we put it in those terms, it's there is already a little problem, I think, appearing.
Okay.
Because then when I think about the practical justice or political justice, which you termed as a correction of ethics.
Yes.
Yeah. Then it's kind of, it's very difficult to make the connection between the correction of justice,
Correction of morality.
correction of morality. When you have it as a goal to get to this messianic, to the ethics without injustice, that's one thing. But when you know that you can't get there, the whole project of correcting the ethics becomes a bit shaky, I think, or maybe it's only me.
See, I would say,
Maybe I'll finish because
yeah,
it's,
go on.
I think that there is more to say about this messianic, about the figure of Messiah. It's utopia definitely, but it's not only utopia. And that, in that sense, that it's a religious term, and religion plays here a crucial role. It's not only functional, so to speak, the way it is in, let's say, Kant, where God is just invoked whenever kind of Kant needs to fill in the gap. It's much more. Maybe that, but I can't make a connection. I'm just trying to.
No,
yeah.
let me jump in.
Yeah.
Because it's not, I think the problem in what you're raising, it's a good problem, but the problem in what you're raising is that you don't know that you can't get there. What you don't know is every step from here to there. You know where you're going. What you don't know, and you can't know, and it's not a flaw, it's not a failing. We choose the best policies we can choose in our current historical context. That is, those policies that we believe will bring us best, with the least violence, to the utopian future. It's only utopian because it's not here, but we don't know that we cannot get there. And Levinas speaks in terms of patience here. This is where patience comes in. A very long patience. Now, we could call this religion in the sense that religion gives us hope. So patience and hope are very similar. Without hope, we become cynical. So this is the antidote, not anecdote, but the antidote to cynicism. So that there's no saying we can't get there. It's just that we need to have this deliberate acknowledgement of our ignorance. Otherwise, we fall into political idealism, and I don't like this term so well, because in a common sense, where I think it's good to be idealistic, we should be idealistic, I'm idealistic.
Yeah.
But I mean it in that philosophical sense of idealism, which says, here's an idea from here to there, and there's the absolute. Hegelian absolute idealism.
But he doesn't, like, because I study utopia, but he doesn't say, like, the betterment of society is our aim, but he said, if we can nullify our essence, we can do this interestingness. This will coincide with the betterment of society. That's not his aim. He's not thinking like that. He's thinking from ethics, and he thinks if this interestingness can be attained, then the better society will be coincident. It will just happen with it.
You see, this I very much disagree with.
Why?
Levinas, if I understood you, it's that the disinterested at the moral level will be sufficient by itself.
No, of course not.
Oh, I'm saying, misheard you.
No, like, of course there's the third, and of course he said, like, we need a place. It's a place for justice. I'm going to talk about that tomorrow. So of course he talk about that. But I just say that's not his aim. There's the problem of, you said there's a place, like we know where we're going and we're going there. We just need patience. But he doesn't say where that is.
Oh, but I have told you. That's one of the great things you'll bring home from this class. Ethics without injustice.
Yeah, of
That's
course.
where we're going.
Yeah. So that's how, like, you don't set up like justice society is not the aim, because you need to start from subjectivity. You can't start with society. You are not society yourself. What you can say all about is from that. Then from this you can say about the third and the
Okay,
justice.
good. Then I will disagree with you. I will really disagree with you. I believe that Levinas has written a political philosophy. I believe that political philosophy...
I don't believe that.
I know that. That's why we're disagreeing.
Yeah.
I believe that political philosophy is the highest form of philosophy. It's the most difficult philosophy there is.
I don't
You have
believe
to have all your bowling
Engage
pins.
in everyday life.
You have to have all your bowling pins. You have to have a theory of the self, a
But
theory
you
of everything.
can't write that. Yeah.
So, remember, everything is happening
Yeah.
simultaneously or out of phase in
Yeah.
Levinas. What Levinas wants is that the political actor be a moral being, be a moral agent. It's not that he
It's
wants...
not.
The political actor should be a moral agent. That's what he wants. But the highest activity, the greatest demand upon the individual
Okay.
is to create the just society where
So-
I can be good to the other
Yeah.
and not cause harm.
So yeah.
That's
how-
my highest
Yeah,
priority.
yeah. How do you define the society then? If you put because this is the problem, where you put the self and where you put the society. If you put the self first, you still live in nothing. But if you put the society first, you say he is aimed at a political regime or a political whatever ideal. Let's put society first. Of course we need society, but first for Levinas, it's the self, it's the subject. It needs to start from the subject. You can't start with society, then you get a totalitarian region.
but
Because you are outside of it yourself. You need to remember you are inside.
I said that justice without morality is tyranny. Justice,
Yeah, but-
and I'm agreeing with you there,
yeah.
I agree with you there,
No.
but I'm saying, what is the real meaning of this infinite relation, obligation to the other? I'm saying that it's moral agency in a society.
In
It's not
society,
detached from
but
society.
it's not a closed society. You can't say it's there and we are going there. You can't close it at all. It's always disinterested first. It's, even the society itself needs to be disinterested. If your interest is betterment, it's like, oh, I want a better future, whatever, peace or justice, the interest is there, and you're going toward that. It's not disinterested. It can never be that. You lose the openness. You need to face the other, then the openness is there. Then you limit your charity. You limit your charity. It's not like the other way. You have too much charity, and because of that, you have a state. That's what he said, like, the state, you need to say whether you're going toward the state through
Here's the problem.
limitization of
I
charity.
hear what you're
Yeah.
saying, but the problem is, if I treat the other morally and don't give proper weight to concerns of justice, I'm going to create injustice. So that I cannot give
Yeah.
my friend a larger portion of food
Yeah,
when we have to distribute food.
yeah.
Even though I love my friend infinitely.
But
I
that's not
cannot give
moral.
them-
You love your friends, that's not
No,
moral.
that's moral.
That's not moral, because if you love your friends more than the
I
others,
shouldn't use the
that's...
word love. See,
Yeah.
that's why maybe not using the word love. I feel a responsibility to my friend infinitely.
No, to the stranger, to the widow, to the orphan,
To
not to the
everyone.
friends.
No, but I'm saying,
it's
here's
No, but
no, here's the
even
problem.
even if we drop the friend dead for a
Yeah,
minute.
you're right. It could be-
You got the job with friends. You have
No, look, it's the same with the strangers.
Yeah,
It's the
yes,
same
that's,
thing.
if I focus on one stranger,
Yeah.
I've got the same problem.
I mean, I'm not saying I don't recognize at all justice. I just say you can't set justice as the final goal.
Why not?
Because that is all about society. Then you can't say that because you are only an
No,
individual.
the whole of Levinas's philosophy is to present us with a political philosophy that when we talk about aiming for
It's
justice,
ethics. He never said political is first philosophy.
okay, drop the word political philosophy.
Yeah.
Levinas is presenting us a worldview
Yeah.
such that when you care about justice, you do not disregard the other who faces
No, I
you.
think
That's
when
the
you are
point of it.
treating others morally or with responsibility, you limit it because there's others. You limit it. It's not like you are kind of, I think you kind of turn it the other way. For me, you should limit your responsibility for the other because there's the others.
Yeah.
It's not the other way around to say like you just because there's justice then you morally treat others.
Well,
It's
I'm
different.
temper.
It's like openness and
Yeah.
closeness.
If I'm allowed to say something, I totally agree with you. And I think about a communistic society, a socialistic society. This kind of society is oriented towards justice. This is the whole idea. I don't care how it is implemented. I don't want to discuss this. But the idea of a communist society is the idea of a perfect justice.
Meaning what? What does it mean?
This means that everybody is equal to everybody. Everybody is treated in the same way.
No.
And the problem is,
No,
in
it
theory,
doesn't mean that at all. That's what it means in a certain Marxist interpretation of a communist society. But France is a socialist society, Germany is a socialist society, Norway, Sweden, Denmark, England, these are socialist
I
societies.
don't want to argue that there are many levels of social societies or socialistic societies. But my point is that in such a society, the more the goal is to achieve perfection in justice, the less the other exists as another.
This is the problem Levinas's philosophy is designed to solve. He
Yeah,
knows
but-
exactly what
But
you're
when
saying.
you put society
He knows
first,
what you're saying.
when you put
Yeah.
society first, you tend to totalize what cannot be
Yeah.
totalized.
Yes.
You tend to, it's the same problem that you encounter when Levinas speaks about reason. Yeah? It's the same problem. When we have one single reason, we don't need language. When we have one single reason.
Levinas agrees with everything you're saying. I don't know why you're saying it again. You know that view that I've heard people say that you have to break a few eggs to get the omelet. And Levinas is trying to present an answer to that. He's trying to answer to those people who put an ideal of a perfect society above moral agency. That's what it's designed to do. But I'm saying the highest priority, however, is to set up a society where my moral agency will not cause harm. How else can you put it?
Yeah, that's right, but
How else can you
this
put it?
does not mean to put social justice first. So to put social justice first is
But there is
to
no social justice without morality.
no, there's
There's no social justice without morality.
yeah, that's right. That morality comes first,
Yeah.
and what
Ethics was first.
yeah, ethics comes first, and what
why don't you use
I think at this point, Derrida joins issue with Levinas with regard to this issue of justice. And as she suggested, there is a very possibility in my radical relationship with the single other, there is a very possibility that others are neglected, that justice is not properly given. So what is suggested is that instead of devoting to a single other, you open up yourself to welcome all others and treat, infinitely offer hospitality to everybody. And then this is the way justice is being done in the realm of intersubjective relation. And he talks about the messianic also. Messianic, as he was suggesting, or many people consider, may not be considered as eschatological, as something waiting in future, as an ideal time, fruition of the present. Instead, that it's a synchronic experience, a diachronic experience of time that can be achieved here and now itself, in our every relationship with other, provided we radically open up our space, our welcoming everybody.
But the other and the other, they kill each other, then how can you welcome everyone?
Pardon?
Yeah, if the others, they kill each other, then you welcome them all
Yeah,
in your
then
house and they kill each other.
you will not be anymore devoting to any single others, as Levinas suggests.
the question is very good, and the problem is that there is a tension between ethics and social justice.
Of course there is. Of course there is.
There's a tension, and this is
That's the
not.
whole point.
And I don't, in my opinion, I don't think that Levinas solves this tension.
No.
You're only confronted as a human with this problem. How should I, in the same time, welcome the other and do justice to the others? This is the greatest question. But
Freedom is difficult. That's
Yeah, of
it's
course,
difficult.
of course, I'm
So,
not-
so
I'm
he
not-
can't. If you were to answer that question, you'd be wrong.
yeah, exactly.
That's his.
exactly.
Here we are.
And this is
But
because
that's why he's not writing on politics. That's why he's
Yeah.
not writing on politics.
Yeah, you're
because
right.
He's always writing on politics.
No,
You know what?
he's writing on
Totalitarian
ethics.
begins with a discussion of war and peace.
Yeah.
Otherwise, indeed,
You
it
can
ends
have a
with a
war with-
discussion of war and peace.
Yeah.
Back to what you were saying, and to Paul, when Paul was making the connection between politics and reason.
Yeah.
On the first page of Totality Infinity, just to preface this, I don't, when Paul was making his argument, I don't think he was arguing against Levinas, I think he was arguing against their interpretation. Because he says on the first page, in response to the connection to the content of reason, the art of foreseeing war and of winning it by every means is henceforth enjoined as a very exercise of reason. Politics is opposed to morality, as philosophy to anarchy.
Exactly. That's. I'm saying he begins the book with political philosophy. What
He's
he
saying
means-
it's opposed to morality.
No. What he means, again, you have to contextualize. What he means by politics there would be politics divorced from morality.
That's
That's what
saying
he
politics
means.
is opposed to morality.
But no term in philosophy means anything outside of the larger context. So that in that sense, and we'll see tomorrow, the word philosophy is both good and bad. Politics is good and bad. Rhetoric is good and bad. There is no term. I'm just saying. I'm saying what he-
The point is here that you can read this paragraph
Yeah.
in the sense that he's describing the current situation.
Right.
And so when he says politics is opposed to morality, it's not his point of view, but that's the problem which he poses. And I think it's a good, it's a correct reading, because the first sentence is his problem,
Right.
is his question. And then the second paragraph is the elaboration on that question. So the problem is there, he elaborates. I don't think it proves that, although I agree more with Paul's and Mao's point of view, I really think there is a break. It's between morality and politics, and I don't somehow meets my intuitions. I spoke yesterday, but it's completely counterintuitive to think of Levinas as a political philosopher. His problem is to solve moral problems. And for him, society or justice or the third, it comes also as if it's an afterthought. He says it's there, but it's actually shaped by the ethical relation,
Okay.
which is
Let me try to respond.
the way I see it.
I felt this too. For years I read Levinas that way. I've only recently come around to seeing him as a political philosopher. So go to the center of page 22, the second page.
Yeah.
22.
22 and the totality and infinity. And he says, and this opposition of morality and politics. Morality will oppose politics, and actually the French is historically, and will have gone beyond the functions of prudence or the canons of the beautiful to proclaim itself unconditional and universal when the eschatology of messianic peace will have come to superimpose itself upon the ontology of war. Now this is a classic case where you can find many citations where each of these words will mean something else. It will mean almost the opposite of what it means. But I think this is the thing I'm trying to point to now when I'm saying that, and of course, look, he's using the word eschatology in this positive, because he revalues the word eschatology. He takes the word eschaton, so that it's not the final end, it's the dignity, it's that end in itself that Kant is talking about, the self-sensing being, the point. So he's opposing the people who, as he says, found morality on politics, but he's showing that just as Aristotle, when he finished his ethics, it led to his politics, or you could say you couldn't have his politics without his ethics, or his ethics without his politics. The work of Levinas in Totality and Infinity, as I said, I want to make an analogy here, is to show us the alterity of the other. Once he's done that, and otherwise than being, he can work on the responsibility of the self. The work of Levinas' philosophy is to establish the primacy of morality, of the moral agent, so that when we think of politics, which is the highest form of our approach to the world, because it encompasses everything, we will approach it from a moral point of view. It's sort of a moral politics. This is the greatness of his political philosophy. This is not a political philosophy we've seen.
It's not moral agent. You can't have a moral agent because this subject, this self is you can't say it in a third person, moral agent. That's I agree with you, because I also believe he has not the political philosophy. He has this aim because it's society. He comes from a social point of view. Of course, that's true. But I just don't know where you kind of, if you start moral agent or whatever, you kind of go back to this liberal thinking of
to the face-to-face relation.
Hang on. Remember the sentence I pointed to? I said to everybody, "What's wrong with this sentence?"
Yeah.
And no one knew what was wrong with it.
Yeah.
That's what you're saying about what I'm saying now. And I'm aware of that. When I use the word term moral agency, what we're talking about is my responsibility. But I'm trying to speak in a way that we can all understand. But having spent the time on Levinas, as all of us have, even before this seminar, we know that what moral agency means in Levinas is first-person singular responsibility, and that is where all of our everything comes from. That's the source. But I'm saying that when I say political philosophy, that he's a political philosopher, I am using this word critically. That is, I am attempting to rethink the meaning of political philosophy. So I'm not sort of saying, oh, he's Hobbes. No, he's the anti-Hobbesian philosopher. I'm saying, let us begin to rethink what political thought is in this context.
How about after politics? I mean, there's an end. You can have an ideal society. You can imagine the end.
He
but
says,
how about after that?
He says after politics or outside the state, right? But that's a political statement. The outside the state is a political statement. See, he doesn't want to think of outside the state ontotheologically. He wants to think of it morally. So morally means thinking of justice. We have to rethink political philosophy from this moral point of view. And actually, it is related to Kant. It is related to Kant.
We have to rethink it on the basis of this face-to-face relation. We have to rethink the political philosophy on the basis of ethics.
Yes.
So this is I think this is what me
Yes.
and everybody is trying to say. The fact that there's this primate of the face-to-face relation. There's this primate of the ethics. And there's a tension between ethics and justice, and Levinas is trying to show us that in every situation we are confronted with this as you put it, difficult freedom, that we always have to, in the same time, welcome the other and do justice to the others. And there's no recipe for that. There's in every circumstance there's a different way to do it, and maybe there's no way to do it sometimes. Maybe
Yes.
we do
Everything.
wrong when we...
I agree, everything, but what the danger is, in every ethical philosophy, why Jameson, when I challenged him and said, what you're doing is an ethical philosophy, he said, no, ethics is ineffectual. The danger is that we will continue the tradition of an ethics considered ineffectual in the face of realistic politics. And Levinas has a new political thought that will think of moral agency as not ineffective, but as this essential moment of political activity. And I'm just thinking this is a new way to approach it.
Because like tomorrow we are going to talk about how the asymmetrical, like when you can't say the I is also another of another. Till the degree you can say I is another to the other. That's because of God. He doesn't. I don't like the word moral agency because you kind of include the I back to the whole thing. I mean, it's all like, oh, I is a moral agent, and you are a moral agent, and you kind of bring that to equal. That's why I don't like it, because even you can be symmetrical to say, because of God, I can be another to the other. But that's because of God, because you are...
Let me ask you this.
Yeah.
If someone you met who hasn't
Yeah.
read Levinas, say your mother, says, what is Levinas basically writing about? I would say, oh, he's writing about moral agency. I would say he's writing about how to be moral.
I would say about the responsibility of the I. Of the
Okay, I would say that
Yeah.
too,
It's different.
responsibility.
It's
Absolutely,
no,
but I would put
no,
it in the
it's not
set.
morality. He said it's the dupe of morality. It's not morality. It's the self. It's the subject. He write down the subject. Go back. Go.
No, but he's saying we're not duped by that.
No, I know, but
Yeah,
it's
so
not
you
dupe. But it's the other. It's the wrong.
You would say all that to your mother?
No, yeah, of course I would say it's a substitutional I. It's a
Really?
self.
My parents, I dedicated my books to them, and they would always say, we can't understand these. You know, my parents are both very intelligent, educated people who read a lot and said, we can't understand it. Because remember the first class I said one of the difficulties is that Levinas wants to speak to philosophy,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But I said, if he weren't speaking to philosophy, his message is so simple, it's obvious to the world. Be a good person, try to make a just society. So I
Try to
I-
make a
I am
just
not gonna-
society.
I don't-
You don't have the right to say we can make a just society. You are not outside of it.
Yeah.
When there's the danger, you know, when philosophers they think they are outside and they say, oh, moral agent or justice society.
You're right, of course.
You are inside.
Sure.
That you always need to remember you are the subject. What do you do first? It's not the social justice. You need to just give your bread to me.
Yeah.
That's the first step, and then you can. It's not start from that point of view. Then you always think you are higher. You know what is justice, and how do you know justice?
I think that all the political philosophies of the past have done this. All the political philosophies have tried to understand how should we treat each other, starting from the global view, starting from the third person perspective, which is precisely what Levinas is trying to avoid. He's
Yes.
trying to say we can't get a third person perspective.
Yeah.
We are ourselves.
Yes.
We are always confronted with what? With faces. We see faces. We don't see a plurality of the others who addresses to us, but we see faces. And we have to respond to these faces. This is the primordial thing in Levinas. ask. This
Actually,
is
it's
what
not
kind
as
of
simple as
stuff?
that. It's not as simple. Of course we respond to cases, but now let's talk about what justice would involve. And Levinas refers to the courtroom, place of justice. And he reminds us that when you try the case stands on what happened or didn't happen, and we have to be indifferent to the singularity of the actors. But after the case has been decided, in terms of meting out punishment, then we have to have all the mercy in the world. So it's not as simple as saying, oh, we have to think concretely what it means to have this intersection of self-responsibility and justice.
Yeah.
So in the case of a courtroom, it means chronologically, in terms of figuring out the case and deciding, we are treating everyone equally. When it comes to punishment, we are merciful.
Yeah.
That's one solution. It might be wrong, but it's one solution.
I totally agree with you on that, but you have picked a very special case. A courtroom is not the case we are dealing with in our everyday life. In our everyday life, in our everyday life, we are not we don't see other people who are coming to us and asking from us to decide who was guilty. In our everyday life, we are confronted with faces who demand something from us. This is the situation Levinas is describing all the
Everyday
time.
life, we are constantly deciding questions of justice. I'm waiting in line, I see someone, it looks to me like they've cut a head. I don't care if they're the king of Denmark, I am against them cutting a head. But I find out the person they're standing with has been waiting for them and is their partner, and I feel, that's fine, anyone should be allowed to do
That's
that.
not politics.
No,
You
that's
can have-
everyday life.
Yeah, that's not
But that's-
politics.
but that's
my
also
problem.
politics.
You can have justice, but it's not about politics.
That's politics.
Why? You just make a personal choice.
That's social justice. What, are we supposed to wait for the government to give it to us? That's social justice.
You've been waiting for a long
Actually,
time.
after all, what is politics? If there is I and you, only two persons, there is no politics. That is entirely unethical. But when the third party comes, then is the issue of politics arises for the first time.
Yeah.
But it is a society. That the presence of the third
That
is
is every day.
determines society.
That's every day.
Then
If you have
how do
family, that's what's going on.
then how do you conduct the relationship with the third party? It means a group of people, a larger whole. That is the question Levinas faces, or suggests with regard to the discussion of justice. In the entire politics, from ancient time onwards, is thinking about how to sustain peace between people. And peace so far has been imposed through law and police forces. And is there any other means to maintain the relationship? That is the question is being
Well,
discussed by Levinas.
I think you have formulated the problem very well, but I think I can make my point on using your terms, because as you said, there are two cases when there are two people, who have a face-to-face relationship, and when a third party comes. Now the question is, do we judge the relation with the third party on the basis of the face-to-face relation, or do we judge the face-to-face relation on the basis of the relation with the third party? This is the question we are
I know what you
discussing.
mean by the word judge.
It's not judging.
No, it's
I have to live in peace. You have to live in
it's
peace.
judging in terms
He
of
has to live in peace. It is not the question of judging.
It's judging like you
in
think
terms of
it's
understanding.
No,
Do I understand? Do I philosophically understand our face-to-face relation, starting or on the basis of the relation with a third party, or do I understand the relation with a third party on the basis of
The
the
latter.
face-to-face?
That's the whole point of Levinas.
Yeah.
The latter.
Exactly. So the
That's why I'm
face-
saying this is a new political
the
philosophy.
face-to-face relations comes first.
And that's why it's a new political philosophy. Because the third is always present. The third is always present.
Yes, that's true, but I'd say that this is
So
precisely
now
why
I
it's-
approach the third, justice. I am approaching justice
Yeah.
through
Yeah.
the face of the other. Absolutely.
This is precisely why I think this is not a
Let me-
political
let me-
philosophy.
You don't remember, but you would. When, years ago, I think it was Mitterrand got elected in France, the slogan of the party was socialism with a human face. Remember the slogan? That was so Levinasian. So that, of course, with a human face, politics with a human face is what Levinas is teaching. This is new.
I think to try to some maybe compromise or come play the diplomat. We all kind of agree that the main point, the main insight in Levinasian philosophy is ethical insight, which is I am responsible for the other who speaks to me. And I think that's not the question. The question now is, and also I think we all agree that this insight influences and reshapes completely the way we will think or think politics. I think that's easy also to agree with. The question is, because now we are arguing, is he a political philosopher or not? And then the question is, did he develop sufficiently the political side of it or not? And I think that's a technical question, so maybe we can stay with our opinion.
Because we didn't define like what we mean by, I think
Yeah.
what you mean by politics or justice is different. What do you mean by
This is
justice?
different,
What do you
because I'm
mean?
basing it, this is a Levinasian
Yeah,
theory.
but
So one
what
of
do
these
you mean by-
seminars, one of these summer seminars will be on
Yeah.
Levinas as a political philosopher.
What do you,
So
what do
it's
you
hard to
mean
do
by-
it right now.
Yeah.
but
What do you mean by justice then?
I already told you, justice would be the rectification of the suffering that is caused by morality. It would be the case that I could be moral without causing without causing harm. Justice would be, I can be moral without causing harm. Right now, when I am moral, I cause harm. And so I'm saying that,
So you-
this took me a long time to figure out,
And
but
then
that little
politics.
formula that I just
Then
said there,
politics.
that's what
Yeah,
justice
then
is.
politics. Then the-
Politics is
yeah.
the hard work of institutionalizing and sustaining a society where I can be moral without causing harm.
So you think Levinas has a theory on institutionalization?
Of course, he always says this, he's always saying this has to be institutional.
No,
Yeah.
he said that he has no thinking about what is that.
Well, it's not developed, I mean, that's for sure.
He
But-
Do
doesn't-
we see
yeah.
like in-text support for what you say?
Well, the sentence I just
He
read,
But
said,
that's the only thing that you're bringing up. Can you bring up more?
it's, I should have brought my computer. I've taught a course on Levinas's political philosophy, so this is not, I mean, I apologize, so look for my future publication, that's all I can say. Because this is the topic I'm working on, this is what I'm working on.
probably he is only setting a stage for a further developing of such a political system.
But I think
That's
it's-
others has to do.
That would be the sad. If he develop an institution, that's a sad. That's not.
He comes out in several articles in explicit support for, he says liberal democracy is not one type of regime, it is politics.
As a
He said
democracy.
Asian culture is only dancing. Do you believe that then? Do you believe we only can dance?
No,
Singing.
but you're, I think you're distorting what you mean by the set in the first place, because what, you keep modifying what the set is. It's open.
Modifying sad is not saying
Yeah,
it's moral, it's ethical. It's not just modifying. It's not modifying. It's not.
Well, it's re-saying. It's, you're saying
it's
it.
reduction to saying. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
every saying is going to turn into a set.
Yes, for sure. He said that. Yes, because of third party, of course.
So if we create an institution, that doesn't mean we're done creating institutions, or modifying the institution, or revivifying the institution.
Yeah.
If we end up doing that, we're in trouble. So let's leave it an open question, because it's a very big question. It's a huge question. Levinas is a political philosopher, and they can have the same.
In response to what you're saying about the institutionalization of goodness, I don't have the text with me, but in his interview with Francois Pillot or something,
Poirier
yeah, he said that the institutionalization of charity would be Stalinism.
would be what?
Stalinism.
Stalinism?
It's institutionalization
He's
of
very
charity.
much against Stalinism. So, let's move on. I mean, it's too big. I would
That just
defend,
seems to refute the idea that the institutionalization of goodness is what he's aiming for.
one comment in an interview, he everywhere opposes Stalinism. He has many things to say about institutionalizing justice. You don't have justice without institutions. There is no justice without institutions. And you have to have a police force. It's not an accident.
Yeah, that I think is also true.
Yeah.
But the aim, what is the aim?
But let's go,
There is no question.
let's let Rahul, since this isn't the topic of the seminar, and just as the whole section 4, phenomenology of eros, is not the topic, although I said a few words about it today, we will have a seminar on the phenomenology of eros. We just, as much as I would like to say everything at once, we can't, we're just not those sorts of creatures. So let's turn to Raluca, who is going to talk about the section, page 194 to 201, or whatever she wants to do with the no sections on the infinity and the phase, because today is the day we're talking about the phase and responsibility, and then Victoris will speak after on discourse and ethics. So let's turn the floor over to Raluca.